So we went from the alt mode to the robot mode. Today we are going to be talking about Transformers Age of the Primes Voyager class Armada Red Alert, but not the vehicle mode that we talked about last week that we got in those color molded test shot colors. We now have the robot mode. But unfortunately, much like everything else we seem to be getting from this line, without the head on it. So let's do what we always do here on the Transformer Slag podcast and make sense of everything that we got in front of us. And we're going to start, of course, with that body and what's going on. It still has no head on it, but I'm pretty sure if we use our imagination, we can figure out how that head's going to look. That Peter Weller-looking RoboCop head with those colors and everything. I'll put it up on the screen. Someone did a very good digibash that kind of represents that. So that's probably how it's going to look. But let's look at the fine details about this. Let's talk about the thickness of those thighs and legs, along with how like the kibble rolls out on the legs and everything that's hanging off of it. When you look at something like the original 2003 toy and how that ended up compared to, like, let's say the animation model in the show afterwards, it's very clear, much like that we saw with all the other Transformer Armada modern legacy-based kind of toys. They're going for much more show accuracy than they are doing toy accuracy, and we see that very much so when you compare to the toy version as opposed to the animation model with this figure here. There's much more of that cut going on there. And speaking of cuts, when you look at his chest even, you don't see any mold cut on the chest or the front end of the vehicle that makes the robot mode of what would have been an opening chest for a Minicon gimmick. Now, granted, I don't expect a spring-loaded Minicon gimmick. I mean, that's really just been reserved only to a Soundwave toy to really have any spring-loaded anything in a chest at this point. But outside of, gimmick-based lines. But it's something where I could see them still implicating it and emulating it in some shape or form. There is a small 5mm peg that is just below the chest there. I don't know if it's part of the transformation or how it clicks in, but it could be maybe that's where a spot where a 5mm peg for a blast effect could be. I could be wrong. Maybe it's mistransformed, but that's one possibility. Maybe I'm just looking too deeply into it, but it is something I'm kind of hoping for because we do have that 5mm peg port that's on the shoulder or in the front of the vehicle on the top, which emulates that of what a Minicon would have done. So clearly something is there for some reason. They wouldn't just put that hole there for no reason whatsoever if there isn't some kind of adjacent storytelling element that could be put with it. When we look at the accessories, we finally get our first look at some proper accessories because when we had that vehicle mode photo a while back last week, there was a huge gap at for the top for us viewing it of the vehicle mode, the left side of the vehicle, the driver's side in the rear. And it was this big gap that would have been the storage area for Red Alert's gun, the Aloto gun, as it was called in Micron Legend, but the Alert gun. And that was absent, and it was something that when you originally put the Minicon in on the original toy, it propped up the gun, and it was the Evolution or Transform and Combine, whatever the dub said. And that was how he got his gun. So now with this robot mode photo, we actually have a shot of his actual accessory of his gun. There's not much really I could say. It's kind of it's not the best image that we have, but it does look like it's kind of emulating the animation model, so I have no complaints really with that. I'm just glad that it is there and it's not absent. But what's really cool is how they handle some of the other stuff. Now, the original Red Alert toy and his animation model had one normal hand, his right hand, which held the gun, and then his other hand was one of those repair hands, swappable tools onto a wrist. He didn't have a traditional fist per se. He just had these swappable two different translucent tools. Now, clearly, Hasbro is planning for the future with this mold and not having to resculpt a whole new left hand for whatever this mold will be used for later. They already, out of the bat, gave this Red Alert two fully sculpted hands for the left and right. And the new weapons are now just these translucent plastics, no doubt, which will be in clear red when it's the final product, of his tools. and now they just clip over the fully sculpted hand now, much like an Energon axe used with most of the Optimus Prime toys today. So that's a good way to circumvent any kind of issues of what they might use this tooling for later on in the future for characters, by making his accessories a clip-on thing. Now, I don't know if he comes with two like he did with the original. We only see one here, but it is cool that they are including it in some shape or form, and he'll still be able to have two separate hands, even though that's something fictionally he never really had before. What's even more interesting is that the shot that we have of him next to the Transformers Age of the Prime Voyager class wavemate, if you will, or counterpart, with that test shot Voyager class Prima. Clearly, Prima is way taller than him, even though they're both Voyager class price points. This reminds us even more, and it's something that Nate talked about, how we're going to be seeing even more so how price points, like Voyager classes, like leaders and everything, are not so much about the size of the figure, but the plastic used in it. And Red Alert, no doubt, is going to be very heavy on accessories, on weapons, on maybe even blast effects, and that's what's going to kind of be his reasoning for him being shorter, but having a lot more stuff. And also, I imagine they're probably trying to stay more true in scale with his other Armada counterparts that exist within this modern line. I mean, when you look at something like Hotshot, who's a deluxe class, and then you look how they look together in the show, they're kind of about the same height. Maybe you could argue Red Alert's maybe slightly taller, but at the end of the day, that's what I think they're going with there too. You know, we got Prima last week in his final colors minus the head. Maybe we'll get Red Alert in some shape or form, maybe in the next couple of days in his full colors, so we can get an idea of how that's going to turn out. I'm kind of curious also how the Red Cross logo is going to work, because that's something Hasbro can't use now that Red Alert had prior. So there's a lot of discussions that are probably going to happen with the deco too. I mean, we're going into 2025 of December very soon, and there will be a new live stream segment from Hasbro Pulse, but no doubt that's going to be probably more studio series related, but we might get some small teases of Age of the Primes maybe also going into January of 2025. So we will see. So we might have to just wait, if anything, to get some official Hasbro releases outside of all these factory leaks at this point. But let me know what you think about Red Alert and what you expect repaint-wise from him, or even extensive retools now that we know he's going to be getting a full second hand. Just add another Armada guy to the collection, along with Optimus Prime, Megatron, Galvatron, Starscream, Super Starscream, or Thundercracker, the Hotshot, and the Powerlinks Hotshot. And then who knows what else we'll get in the future. If anything, maybe we'll get some more mini-cons, and then the AAA, or the Aaron Archer Army, will grow even more. Yes, I said that, AAA. Thanks again for listening to the Transformer Slag podcast and keeping you educated, entertained, and informed like we always do in our love of these robots that transform into thingamajiggies. And as always, I'll talk to you in the near future.